Welcome back to our YouTube channel, Seeds of Kindness. Today we've got an unbelievable story for you, one that pushes imagination, courage, and science to the edge of space. If you haven't already, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss another adventure. Now, let's begin part I of the 13-year-old pilot who took control at 35 km altitude. Aarav Malik was the kind of kid who looked up at the sky more than he looked at the ground. While most 13-year-olds were glued to video games or scrolling endlessly through their devices, Aarav spent his free time studying flight manuals, building paper gliders, and memorizing aircraft designs from YouTube documentaries. His fascination began at age 6, the day his father took him to an air show. He remembered gripping the railing with tiny fingers as fighter jets roared overhead, slicing the air like silver lightning. The sound shook his chest and something inside him stirred, a small but powerful desire that whispered, "One day I'll be up there." By the time Aarav turned 11, the whisper had become a roar. He begged for flight simulation software for his birthday, and once he had it, he practiced for hours, taking off, landing, navigating storms, and managing imaginary emergencies. He didn't play games to win, he played to learn. His mother often laughed at how serious he looked, sitting in front of his computer wearing oversized headphones, muttering things like, "Altitude stabilized, adjusting pitch throttle to 30%. His father would shake his head and say, "Pilot Malik, you're cleared for dinner," as if he were talking to a trainee pilot. But even though they joked, they knew Aarav's dreams weren't a phase. His teachers knew it too. Whenever there was a science fair, Aarav created models of pressure systems or wing shapes. His bedroom looked less like a child's room and more like a miniature aerospace lab, covered with diagrams of turbofan engines, posters of the ISS, and sticky notes with equations scribbled in messy handwriting. One day at school, his science teacher, Miss Rackwell, made an announcement that would change everything. She spoke with extra excitement, her eyes shining as she held up a brochure. "This year," she said, "one of our students will get the chance to join StratosQuest, a prestigious program that allows young researchers to contribute to real scientific missions, including sending a research craft to the stratosphere at 35 kilometers above Earth." The classroom erupted with chatter, but Aarav froze. His pencil slipped out of his hand. StratosQuest, the stratosphere. Just hearing the words felt like his heart had grown wings. The program wasn't about piloting. No one expected kids to fly anything. But it allowed young scientists to help design experiments that would be carried into near space by a helium balloon-powered research craft. It was the sort of program that students dreamed about but rarely won. For 2 weeks straight, Aarav worked on his application. While others filled in short paragraphs, he wrote pages about atmospheric density, thermal stratification, cosmic rays, and the importance of studying Earth's upper layers. He even included diagrams he'd drawn himself. His parents worried he was overworking, but they didn't stop him. They recognized that fire, that intensity, and they knew better than to dim it. 2 months later, on a warm afternoon, a white envelope arrived in the mail. Aarav tore it open with shaking hands. "Congratulations," the letter began. "You have been selected as one of the participants for StratosQuest's 2025 high-altitude research mission." He screamed so loudly that the neighbors heard him. His mother dropped a spoon in the kitchen, and his father came rushing out thinking something terrible had happened. But something wonderful had. For the next several weeks, Aarav attended workshops, video conferences, and hands-on training. He wasn't allowed to fly anything, but he was allowed inside the research facility, something few kids ever saw. He watched scientists calibrate sensors, test weather balloons, and simulate atmospheric conditions. He even got to sit inside Auraminus 5, the research capsule they would be sending up for this year's mission. It was sleek, compact, and filled with bright, blinking buttons. Aarav touched nothing, but his eyes absorbed everything. On the final week before launch, the lead engineer, Dr. Lee, smiled at Aarav and said, "Remember, Young man, science has many paths. Today you observe. One day you may lead. Aarav carried those words with him. He had no idea how soon they would become true. Launch day arrived with the kind of energy that made the entire StratosQuest base feel alive. Students, engineers, researchers, journalists, everyone buzzed around like bees preparing for something monumental. The desert sun was still low on the horizon, casting long golden shadows across the launch pad, where Aarav 5 stood secured under a massive translucent dome. The helium superballoon, folded neatly like an enormous sleeping creature, waited to be filled. Aarav woke before his alarm, his excitement bubbling like soda in his chest. He put on his navy blue StratosQuest student badge with care, polishing the silver logo with the edge of his sleeve. This wasn't just a day. It was the kind he would remember decades from now. When he arrived at the base, the atmosphere was electric. Technicians rushed between terminals, radios crackled with instructions, and the smell of fresh coffee mixed with the desert air. Students gathered behind safety barriers, watching the preparations with wide eyes. Aarav spotted his team and hurried over. "You ready for history?" one of the students asked. Aarav chuckled nervously. "I've been ready since birth." The plan was simple. The students would watch from the observation deck, but before launch, each team member would have exactly 5 minutes inside the capsule to check that their assigned experiments were secured. Aarav's project was a compact atmospheric radiation detector strapped to the right side of the capsule. It wasn't heavy, but it was delicate, and he had triple-checked it the night before. Dr. Lee walked over, clipboard in hand. "All right, Team C, you're up first. Malik, you're doing the pre-flight verification for the detector. Make it quick. We're on a tight schedule." Aarav nodded, heart pounding. This was the closest he'd ever get to stepping into an aircraft that would touch the stratosphere. Inside the capsule, the air smelled of metal and electronics. The interior was quiet, almost sacred. Light from the open door spilled onto the floor, creating a bright path that led to the instrument panel. Aarav knelt beside the detector. He performed each check slowly but precisely. Battery connection, data logger status, cable stability, sensor alignment. Everything looked perfect. He looked around the capsule one last time, admiring the panels, switches, and displays. Most were locked, inactive until the final countdown, but even seeing them made him feel like he'd stepped directly into one of the simulators he adored. Outside, he could hear muffled voices through the metal walls. "Start inflating the balloon. Check all safety locks. Seal integrity confirmed." Aarav leaned back for a moment, taking it all in. The quiet hum of machinery, the faint breeze coming through the open hatch, the glowing horizon beyond the door. He didn't know it then, but this calm moment would become the last sense of stability before everything went sideways. Suddenly, a sharp alarm beeped from outside. Not from inside Aarav 5, but from the launch platform itself. "What's happening?" someone shouted. The radio on the capsule wall picked up a transmission. "Helium valve misfire, pressure rising too fast." Another voice. "Abort inflation. Abort immediately." But before the word abort echoed a second time, the entire capsule jerked. Aarav threw out his hand to steady himself. The floor vibrated. Something mechanical clanked loudly beneath him. The hatch began sliding shut automatically. "No, no, no, wait." Aarav lunged for the door, but the safety system locked it in place with a solid metallic thud. Lights flickered. The capsule trembled again, rising slightly. Aarav's heart dropped into his stomach. He wasn't supposed to be in here. He wasn't supposed to be anywhere near a sealed capsule during pre-launch. Outside, people screamed orders, but the thick metal walls muffled everything. The balloon, already partially inflated, lurched upward, snapping the final ground tether prematurely. And then, with a sudden surge, Aarav 5 began lifting off the platform, rising like a runaway elevator into the sky. Aarav stumbled to the tiny window. Engineers ran across the ground, pointing upward. Someone attempted to activate the remote override, but a loud electrical pop suggested something had shorted out. "Aarav, "Listen, don't panic. We are trying to regain control. Stay calm." But the balloon didn't wait. The capsule didn't stop. The desert shrank beneath him. The base turned into a patch of gray. The horizon curved slightly as the capsule climbed higher and higher with frightening speed. Aarav pressed both palms against the window, breath trembling. He had dreamed of flying his whole life, but not like this. Not alone. Not unexpectedly. Not being carried toward the stratosphere in a sealed, malfunctioning research craft. And yet, the sky swallowed him anyway. The adventure he had always imagined, the one he thought he wasn't ready for, had just begun.
Aarav didn't know how long he had been rising. Minutes? Hours? The ascent felt unreal, like drifting upward inside a dream he couldn't wake from. At first he watched the desert stretch beneath him, then watched it shrink. Then fade behind a veil of drifting clouds. The higher the capsule climbed, the stranger the world became. At 20 kilometers, the sky shifted to a deeper blue, and the sunlight grew harsher, almost silver. The air outside the capsule was freezing, thin enough to crush lungs. Frost crept along the corners of the window like delicate crystal vines. Aarav pressed a shaking hand against the glass. Whoa. He wasn't supposed to be here. No one his age, no one at all, was supposed to be inside Aurora 5 during flight. But there he was, rising toward a part of Earth that most people only saw in textbooks or sci-fi movies. The radio buzzed every few minutes, sometimes clear, sometimes drowned in static. Engineers on the ground tried everything to reach him, but the altitude strained the signal. Aarav. Copy? Where? Override stay calm? Not in danger yet. Guidance offline. Aarav swallowed hard. Please. Just let somebody hear me. At 30 kilometers, the capsule shook lightly. The balloon had expanded to its full, massive size above him, thin as glass but capable of holding its shape in the near vacuum. Inside Aurora 5, the control panel flickered from the extreme cold. Some screens dimmed. Others flashed warnings in angry red text. Remote guidance failure, primary autonomy. Offline descent control unresponsive. Aarav's stomach twisted. He sat down on the small emergency seat, hugging his knees for a moment as the craft continued to rise. Finally, the balloon slowed. Then steadied. Aurora 5 had reached its peak altitude. The monitor displayed the number in bold white digits. Altitude, 35,735 kilometers. The stratosphere, the edge of space. Aarav stood slowly, almost afraid to breathe. The view from the window was unlike anything he'd ever imagined. Earth curved gently below, painted with swirls of white clouds and deep blue oceans. Above, the sky had turned nearly black, dotted with bright, unblinking stars, even though it was daytime. It's beautiful, he whispered. It didn't feel real. It felt like he was floating above the entire world, suspended between everything known and everything unknown. For a moment, fear faded. Aarav wasn't a scared kid trapped inside a malfunctioning research craft. He was an explorer, a witness to the impossible. But reality returned fast. The radio crackled again. Aarav, listen. Systems failing. You may need manual control. Aarav froze. Manual control? His training simulations had been just that, simulations. They weren't meant to guide a real craft, especially not from the edge of space. But then the emergency panel lit up in orange, displaying a message he had only seen in training videos. Crew must initiate control for safe descent. The words pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. Aarav stared at the panel. His breath fogged the inside of the helmetless cabin. His hands trembled. I'm not a real pilot, he whispered. I can't. But then he remembered something. His instructor once told him, courage doesn't appear when things are easy. It appears the moment you're needed most. Aarav inhaled deeply, then stepped toward the controls. The emergency manual interface was simpler than the main system designed for last resort situations. It included a small attitude joystick, a stabilization switch, a 5-step descent sequence. He recognized the layout. It was nearly identical to the simulator he had spent hours practicing on. Maybe. Just maybe. He could do this. The radio crackled faintly. Aurora 5, if you can hear this, begin descent manually. Stabilize. Slow adjustments. Aarav's fingers hovered over the controls. Okay. Aurora 5. Let's do this, he said softly. He flipped the stabilization switch. The craft rumbled as gyros engaged. Good. Next, he tapped the joystick lightly to adjust orientation. The capsule rotated slowly, pointing the heat shield downward exactly as the simulator had taught him. Then came the hardest part. Initiating the controlled descent sequence, Aarav hesitated. One wrong move could send the craft spinning uncontrollably or drop it too fast. His heartbeat thundered in his ears. His palms were slick with sweat. He closed his eyes. You've practiced this. Trust yourself. With a steady hand, he pressed the sequence button. The craft lurched but stabilized moments. Later, the altitude meter began to tick downward. 34,980 meters, 34,700, and 34,400 meters. It worked. Aarav let out a shaky laugh. I did it? I actually did it. But the descent wouldn't be easy. The air pressure would increase. Winds would push the pajafastama. Craft. The temperature would fluctuate violently. Every foot of altitude would require focus and precision. Aarav tightened his seatbelt, grabbed the joystick, and whispered, I'm coming home. The descent from 35 kilometers was nothing like the slow, peaceful rise that had taken Aarav upward. Up there, in the silence of the stratosphere, it had almost felt like floating. But now the air fought back. As the capsule dropped below 30 kilometers, thin streams of atmosphere pressed against the sides, making Aurora 5 tremble as if waking from a long freeze. Aarav felt every vibration through the seat. His hands gripped a small joystick so tightly his knuckles bleached white. Easy. Slow and steady, he whispered, trying to calm both the capsule and himself. The altitude meter ticked steadily downward. 29,000 m28, 500 m. 28,000 meters. Winds pushed at the craft, nudging it left, then right. Aarav corrected gently, remembering the instructor's rule. Don't fight the wind. Guide through it. The radio crackled stronger than before. Aurora 5, do you copy? Aarav, can you hear us? Aarav nearly cried from relief. Yes, I hear you. Ground control erupted in noise on the other end. He heard multiple voices cheering, others calling instructions. Aarav, listen carefully. Dr. Lee's voice finally broke through, steadier than the others. Your descent sequence is stable, but the capsule will hit turbulence around 20 kilometers. Keep your hands ready on the orientation stick. I'm ready, Aarav said, though his voice shook. Good. And Aarav, we're proud of you. The words shot warmth through his chest. even as the temperature outside dropped to brutal sub-zero levels. The turbulence zone asterisk at 22 kilometers. The capsule began to shake harder like a washing machine on its worst day. A loud creaking noise echoed through the frame. Asterisk Aarav flinched. Please hold together, please. Asterisk, he fought the instinct to overcorrect. The craft dipped, then rolled slightly left. He guided it back. It tilted right. He steadied it. The shaking intensified. Bolts rattled. Panels buzzed. His teeth chattered even though he wasn't cold. Asterisk. Altitude. 21,400 meters. He said through clenched jaw. Asterisk, the capsule spun once. Twice, but the gyro stabilization kicked in, and Aarav used the joystick to counterspin. Ground control's voice returned. Good correction, Aarav. Very smooth. Keep descending. He nodded, though no one could see him. The turbulence finally weakened at 19 kilometers, and the capsule steadied into a smoother descent. Aarav sagged back in his seat, breath trembling. Asterisk, I can do this. He whispered. I am doing this. Through the clouds asterisk as Aurora 5 passed through thick gray cloud layers around 12 kilometers, everything outside the windows disappeared. The world became a swirling wall of mist. Moisture streaked across the glass. The capsule groaned softly with each shift in pressure. It felt like flying through a dream. Asterisk then dash finally sunlight broke through again as the craft dipped beneath the cloud base. The desert landscape returned, glowing gold under the afternoon sun. Aarav's breath caught. I see home. The radio came alive again. Aurora 5, prepare for parachute deployment. You're entering safe range. Asterisk Aarav glanced at the panel. The next step was simple but terrifying. Pull the deployment lever at the correct altitude. Asterisk. Altitude, 5,400 meters. He read aloud. Almost there. He wrapped his fingers around the lever. Asterisk, 4,800. Asterisk, 4,500. Asterisk, 4,200. Asterisk, deploy now. Ground control shouted. Aarav yanked the lever. For a moment's silence. Then, boomf. Asterisk, a tremendous jolt slammed through the capsule as the parachutes exploded open above him, catching the wind like massive orange flowers. The craft swung wildly before stabilizing into a gentle drift. Asterisk. Aarav let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. He wasn't falling anymore. He was floating. Touchdown asterisk below. Recovery trucks raced across the desert toward the projected landing zone. Scientists jumped out, shielding their eyes from the sun as they watched Aurora 5 descend like a glowing seed drifting back to Earth. Asterisk. Aarav's heart pounded as the capsule neared the ground. Asterisk. Come on. Come on. Asterisk, the landing pads cushioned the final impact. Thump. Aurora 5 settled into the sand. Asterisk. Aarav sat frozen for several seconds, staring at the control panel, listening to the ticking metal as it cooled from the upper atmosphere. Then the hatch unlocked with a hiss. Light flooded in. Hands reached for him. Aarav! He's okay. Asterisk Dr. Lee pulled him into a tight hug. Engineers cheered. Medics checked him, astonished to find he was perfectly fine, just exhausted, trembling and overwhelmed. Asterisk. You manually piloted a high-altitude descent, one of them said in awe. Do you understand what you just did? Asterisk Aarav managed a weak smile. I guess I flew. Asterisk his mother arrived minutes later, tears streaming before she even reached him. She wrapped him in her arms, sobbing into his shoulder. His father stood behind her, speechless but proud beyond words. Asterisk as they walked him toward the rescue truck. Aarav looked back at Aurora-5. Asterisk just hours ago. That capsule had taken him farther than he had ever dreamed. Asterisk above. Earth. into darkness, into danger, into wonder. He gazed up at the sky blue. Calm, ordinary again, but he knew the truth. He wasn't just a kid who loved the sky anymore. Asterisk, he was the kid who had flown at the edge of space. Asterisk and come back.